What's going on, YouTube? So I've been doing videos for over 5 years now. I've made over 1,000 videos combined between my 3 channels, and I have never properly introduced myself. So what I want to do in this video is, number one, say hi to you guys, either the viewers, the subscribers. My name is Randy Shear, R-A-N-D-Y-S-H-E-A-R. And it's nice to meet you guys, and I appreciate you being here and taking time to watch this video. In this video, now that you know my name, I'm going to give you a little bit of a history lesson on me and where I've come from and how I've progressed to where I am today. So starting out, my parents divorced when I was 5. And no, this is not going to be some 2-hour video. I'm going to keep this fairly short and to the point. My parents divorced when I was 5 years old, and I stayed with my mother like most children. My father went on to live an upper middle class life, and my mother worked really hard at McDonald's, and I'm not ashamed. I'm going to start out by saying this also. I have no shame in where I came from, and I have no shame in what my mother did. She worked really hard to support me. She's never done drugs. She's never smoked a cigarette. She's about as close to a saint. I know everybody brags on their mamas, but she's about as close to a saint as you can get, and she worked her ass off. She did. And she still does to this day. She doesn't work at McDonald's. She's moved up from that. But she continues working. She's a very hard worker, very dedicated, and I appreciate everything she did for me. But times were tough. I was a very angry and disobedient child, violent even at times. I'm talking very, very young. I was a crazy kid. And she had a hard time paying the bills and managing me at the same time. I feel really bad for who I was and what I put her through. But, you know, you do what you do, and then you try to make the best of it, you know, when you can, you know, when you grow up, and hopefully you do. So we lived very poor. You know, my mother worked really hard, and I spent most of my time with her living in a trailer. And even for that time, it was a very old trailer. A lot of time we didn't have water. Then there were times we didn't have heat. There was times we didn't have electricity. There were times that come home to an eviction notice on the door. You know, it was rough. It was really rough. There wasn't enough food to eat, you know, and I can imagine for my mother this was probably exceptionally difficult for her. She did her best. That much I do know, and I appreciate what she did. It came to pass that I could not be controlled, and the only person that could ever control me was my father. He knew that I needed a belt across my backside. That's something that, you know, my mom she had a difficult time doing something like that. You know, as most mothers probably do. My father, on the other hand, let me tell you something. You get out of line, he's quick to put you in your place. And, you know, I used to hate him because I felt like he was too mean to me. And I didn't get a childhood because of him. But the fact is I needed everything he gave me. And I appreciate him for the things that he did, for the most part. Not everything was kosher, but he did the best he could as well. And now that I'm a parent and I'm grown and I'm living this life and seeing how things go, I understand now. I understand more clearly than ever before how difficult it can be to be a parent. And sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do in order to keep your child on track. So with that being said, big shout out and thank you to my mother and my father. I think they both did a pretty good job of turning me into the man that I am today, because without them, I wouldn't be me. So once I went to live with my father, he was, I would call it upper middle class, you know, big house in Choctaw, swimming pool, garden tractor, saltwater aquariums, you know, I mean, just everything that I didn't have with my mother. And I thought, man, it's going to be smooth sailing living this life. Well, no, you got to work for it. My dad didn't give anything for free. I had to work for it. You know, there were plenty of chores. He required me to make straight A's, which for quite a while I did A's and B's. That never was enough. He always wanted the straight A's. I was in band. A lot of you might say I was a band nerd. I lived on a ranch. We moved from Choctaw and ended up in a little town called Dale, Oklahoma, where I lived on a ranch for many years and went to a little country school. And by a ranch, I mean we had animals. We ate our animals. We had chickens. We had eggs that we ate from the chickens. We had ducks. We had geese. We had horses. We had tons of rabbits. We ate a lot of rabbit meat, tons of rabbit meat. Occasionally, our Great Pyrenees dogs would go out and kill a deer and bring it home, and we would get deer meat. It was a good time, and it was a good childhood. even though I didn't realize it at the time. There's a lot of work involved living on a ranch, and I was responsible for a lot of the chores around there, including the animals. But, looking back, I'd love to have that again someday. I'd love to have something like that again someday. Really do miss it. So my dad and my stepmom ended up getting divorced. I was probably 12 at the time, something like that. And, I ended up moving with my dad yet again, and we ended up in an apartment, and he worked really hard. He had 2 other kids that he had with my stepmom, and obviously had to pay child support. And even though he was making good money as an electronic engineer, he was paying out good money in child support, plus they left him to pay some of the bills. You know how divorces go. And it was tough. We ended up poor. Even though he made a very good living, we ended up very poor. So poor, in fact, that a lot of time we didn't even have a vehicle. If we wanted to get somewhere, sometimes we had to walk miles. You walk a mile or two, get on a bus, the bus takes you, you got to walk a mile or two. Basically, that was my entire childhood. My entire childhood was very difficult. It was not an easy life. It was, for a little while, it was living it up with the money, but for the most part of my childhood, I spent it very poor. And it wasn't because my parents didn't work and because they didn't try. My dad, he's the type, my mom too, they are both the type that when they get a job, they keep it and they just work. And, that's something I feel that I learned from them, even though it took me a lot longer to implement it into my life. I was the type, I started out, my first job, my first real job, was working with my dad during the summers. I didn't get summers where I got to go out and hang out with my friends. My summers were spent working. And, again, I hated my father for this because I wanted to be a kid. But today, I'm very thankful for the experience that I had doing that with him. My father has always been an electronic engineer. He's a brilliant man. He can write code, he can program, he can build computers, he can do just about anything. He's quite honestly a damn genius. So he was in the Air Force, and he went to college, and he graduated and got his degree, and he's been working as an electronic engineer ever since. And he's brilliant, absolutely brilliant, man. He taught me a lot about electronics and computers and programming, and I'm very thankful because I have those skills with me today because of him. But I spent much of my youth as he worked at this company called Oklahoma Two-Way, installing two-way radios in cars, police cars, ambulances, fire trucks, motorcycles. I was responsible for keeping the shop clean, as well as helping my dad with whatever he needed help with. And he would teach me as we went along. And mostly what I did was installing two-way radios. You had trunk mount units, and then you had the head units that sat up in front, stacked up on the console. That's what I did. And I did that for quite a while as a child, and I learned a lot about cars and electronics doing that, which is why I'm so good at installing products today, like cameras in cars or whatever, as security systems, stereos. I'm excellent at installing because of the skills I learned from him at a younger age. My next job after that, where I actually started getting paid, was as a shoe shiner. And again, I have no shame where I came from, guys. I started shining shoes at the Flying J Travel Plaza on I-40 and Morgan Road right here in Oklahoma. The shoe shine stand belonged to the barber, and I worked for the barber. My dad did computer work for her. That's what he did. And in the meantime, I sat out in this open lobby area, and I shined truck drivers' shoes. It is quite literally a shitty job, but I earned money, and it was legitimate. It was honest. I did that for quite a while. I even got to shine shoes at the fair for her, where you take the brushes and you throw them in the air. You do legitimate spit shine shoe shines. That I had a lot of fun, and I learned a lot from that experience as well. My next job, my very first legitimate job, I believe at the age of 15, was at Burger King. And I worked at Burger King for quite a while. And somewhere around the age of 16, somewhere around 16, I decided I knew better than everybody else, and I left. I moved out of my dad's, and I went off on my own, and I proceeded to get myself in a lot of trouble. From that point through several years, I had a lot of jobs. I did a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have done, and pretty much wrecked my life. The one thing good that I did during that time is I found this place called Job Corp. I joined Job Corp, and I completed it because if I didn't, I was going to jail. So I was kind of forced into that. Thankfully, still as a minor, so no record, right? But I completed Job Corp. I got my GED with honors. I got my driver's license, and I got my certified nursing assistant license, my CNA. I got a job. I got a place to live, and then I screwed it all up and started messing up again. So I'm not going to go into. I've had 2 marriages, 2 divorces. But I'm not going to get into any of the details on all of that because that's not really pertinent here. I just wanted to give you an idea of what I came from and where I am today. So things have changed, obviously. Around the age of 24 years old, I lost my kids to DHS. I am ashamed of, and I am embarrassed about that, but it's part of who I am today. In 2004, I lost my kids to DHS because we were homeless. I was not a drug user. I was not an alcohol abuser. Back at the time, I was a pretty violent person. It's probably hard to believe that looking at me now. I'm pretty calm today, but that's thanks to a lot of anger management classes, counseling, and things of that nature. But I was pretty violent back in the day, not towards my kids, but I was a very angry and violent guy. My boss, I did contractor work for Beal Realty in Yukon, Oklahoma. My boss, Lonnie Beal, died, and his wife, Bernice Beal, decided to throw us out of our condo. And it was a thing of we worked, and we got to live in the condo, and we got a paycheck. Well, I didn't know the law. She told us to get out. We had nowhere to go. So we went and stayed in a hotel till we burned through our money. When the money was gone, I started writing hot checks, and we ended up living in a tent at a lake with my kids. And the day we were supposed to leave to go stay with a friend in another state, or my uncle, I should say, I'm not a friend, but my uncle, it got turned in that we were homeless. And the police came to the car. We were loaded up in the car, ready to go. The police came to the car and saw that we were homeless and took my kids. And it was a hard time for me. And I'm not proud of it because I should have never allowed my children to be homeless. I was a very poor excuse for a father. And it took me, even after that, about a year before I really got my act together and realized how important my children were to me. I guess I didn't really fully appreciate my kids until they were taken away. It was difficult. It took me over 2 years to get my son back, who I have custody of today. The other kid, we found out, was not biologically mine. And I knew that there was that possibility, but I had always thought she was. So I fought. I married the lady I was with at the time, and we were together for almost 10 years. We fought, and my son came home. And, I started a business then. In 2004 is where I stopped working. My last legitimate paying job was Papa John's as a delivery driver right here in Midwest City. And after that, I started an online business, an eBay store called Shear Electronics and Sales, where I sold electronics. And I went through many phases on eBay selling different things. And it did well enough that I was able to, with my wife working and me doing that, we were able to hire an attorney to fight for my son instead of a public defender, pay the bills, start moving up in the world with nicer cars. After that, I started selling cars. That's something I got into. Started buying cars at auction, impound auctions, and then reselling them for profit. I did that for many, many, many years after that, and did very well. From there, I started a title company. I started a title company that became a 6-figure business. First time I'd ever made 6 figures, and it was a really exciting time because once you hit that 100,000, I mean, today I realize 100 grand a year, it's good money, but it's not $1 million. You know what I mean? There's a lot you could do a lot better. But I'm thankful for that experience. I ended up divorcing my second wife due to, well, just a lot of things, a lot of different things that hurt me tremendously, and it forced me to leave the relationship. But the business went with the divorce, pretty much. I'm just going to leave. I'm not going to get into the details, but with the divorce, the business collapsed, and I lost all that money. And that's when I found Uber, and that's when I started this YouTube channel, these YouTube channels, and from there, it's just grown exponentially. And it's a lot of work. You know, videos, regardless of what you might think, all you do is you click on a video and you watch it and you think, wow, you know, it's an okay video. It takes hours of work for each video that I put out. And, you know, it's very personal. I try to make it a personal experience, and the editing, things you don't see, color grading, you don't see any of that. You just see the video for what it is, but you don't see behind the scenes all the work that goes into it, and you're not supposed to. Your job is to enjoy the video. So with that being said, that is me. That is where I've come from. I have done a lot of different things. I've had a lot of different jobs, and I have been a contractor on my own since 2004. I have not had a single W-2 job since. So for some of you out there that think that I don't know anything about business, I don't know anything about money, guys, I have successfully run 6-figure businesses with no trouble. And, you know, I'm not going to get into why the business collapsed when it came to the divorce, but it's just the way things had to be. You know, that, I will say that it had to be that way. The business had to go. It had to be shut down. And that is the way the cookie crumbles. That was from Bruce Almighty. I know, horrible reference. But, you know, honestly, life happens, guys. It does. Life happens, and things have been really hard for me. I've spent a good portion of my life. I used to manufacture plastic. That's another thing I did. It was a horrible job. 110, 120 degrees with the doors open all year long. And you take little plastic pellets and turn them into sheets of plastic. But it was an interesting job as well. 12-hour shifts. You know, I've done a lot of things. And I've learned a lot throughout my life. And one thing I do understand, and I'm very good at, is running my own company. My business is still thriving, even though it's videos now and a few online sales. I'm still doing well. But I wanted you guys to know that I came from a trailer. All right, guys, so I'm going to have to end this video because it's already too long. But I wanted to give you guys an introduction, a proper introduction to me, who I am, where I came from. And, you know, a lot of people have seen me move up. They've been watching this channel for a while, and they have seen me go from, you know, where I was living, where I had, you know, trailer-looking walls, the paneling, where I was driving old cars, and they have watched me gradually move up to the house I'm living in now. You know, going out and buying a $30,000 car, and they've seen me progress. And I just want to tell you guys, thank you. I appreciate all of you that have been here, that are still here with me today. And I hope that this video can motivate some of you to see that I started out with nothing. Statistically speaking, I should not be where I am today. The people that grow up in a similar situation to me typically grow up to be criminals. And that's just a fact. It's a sad fact, but it is a fact. They grow up to really do more harm than good in the world and have no reason to want to succeed or accomplish anything. So I feel very privileged that I'm able to sit here and talk with you guys today, being the person that I am today. I've worked really hard to get here, and hopefully this can motivate some of you. Maybe you're a kid. Maybe you're just starting out in life and it looks bleak because you don't have anything. Let me tell you, I've lived in a box, quite literally. I've been homeless. I've lived with my children in a tent. I've lived in a car. I've lived in some really messed up situations. All right? Life is tough. When you give up, you might as well not even be here anymore. That's my personal opinion. You have to keep pushing through and pursuing your dream. It may take you many years like it took me. It's not going to come quick. It's not going to come easy. But keep pushing through. Keep working towards your goals. And I'm living proof that you can achieve them. Granted, I'm not a millionaire, and I probably never will be, but I never expected to even be where I am today either. I hoped, and I pursued that dream to be able to just have nice things and provide a comfortable life for myself, my child, my children. And I have that today. And I worked really hard for it. So keep the faith, work hard, and pursue your dreams. And I believe you can make it happen as well. It's nice meeting you guys. It's nice talking to you. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe. Stay safe out there, and Uber on.